The famous spaceman from Kiss, Ace Frehley, has died at the age of 74.
But fans were even more stunned by what Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons revealed following the death. And it was those admissions that transformed how people saw Kiss. Why did the two individuals who kicked Ace off the stage now say he was irreplaceable? In this video, you'll hear every shocking thing that was said, every incident that changed everything, and every relationship that was behind the scenes. Ace died at the age of 74 on October 16, 2025, at Morristown Medical Center in New Jersey. His relatives said that he died because of problems that came up when he fell in a recording studio near his home and hurt his brain. His death ended a musical journey that lasted more than 50 years and began the last chapter in the life of one of rock music's most famous guitarists.
Medical reports say that the accident happened on the night of September 25.
Ace was in his private recording studio when he tripped and struck his head on a recording gear.
He was sent to the emergency hospital right away with an intracranial hemorrhage and fell into a coma.
Doctors found that he had a significant brain hemorrhage and needed emergency surgery to relieve the pressure. Ace woke up momentarily after the procedure, but the issues worsened swiftly and he drifted back into a coma.
His family, including his ex-wife Jeanette Traratola and daughter Monique, came to the hospital right away.
They took turns remaining at his bedside for 3 weeks, hoping to see signs of recovery. Medical sources indicated that Ace was put on a ventilator and maintained alive with other life support devices. But his neurological response didn't get better even after he got intensive treatment. The principal doctor in charge of the patient's care said on October 10 that there was basically no chance of recovery. Ace was in good shape, although he had health problems in the past because of drugs and alcohol. But in the last few years, he has been living a normal life and working regularly. Before he fell, he had just performed his last gig in early September. This was the end of the tour to promote the record 10,000 volts. People on the team said he was happy, worked hard, and talked about making 2 new songs. A few weeks later, no one thought he would be in the hospital.
The management team made the official announcement on October 4 that the rest of the tour would be cancelled.
Ace's spokesperson said in a social media post that the doctor told him he needed to relax for a long time. At the same time, false rumors about his health spread, which made the family had to appeal for privacy in a statement. The last thing he said before he died was that Ace is battling hard, getting good care, and his family always loves him.
After over 3 weeks in the hospital, all medical attempts have failed to make any improvement.
The doctor told the family on October 15 that they should think about taking the ventilator out.
The next morning, after a meeting behind closed doors, the decision was decided. At 8:17 a.m., Ace ceased breathing on October 16.
The official report said that the person died from complications of a cerebral hemorrhage caused by head trauma. The family put out a statement the same day that said, "We are devastated and heartbroken. He was surrounded by love, prayers, and nice words in his last moments. We love all the nice things he did for everyone and the great memories we have of him. His death is a huge loss that words can't describe."
One thing that a lot of people have said is that Ace's final interview was on a talk show earlier this year.
He chuckled and revealed that a clairvoyant had promised him he would live to be 100 when asked about his health. People saw the words as a sign of hope after he died, showing how his personality really is: determined, funny, and not afraid.
From a business point of view, Ace still has a lot of plans that need to be worked on.
He once said that his next album would come out in 2026 and that he would work with 2 young artists he had nurtured. He still has the rough recordings for that project on his home computer. His officials said they are attempting to set up a release that fits with his preferences, but they haven't stated when it will happen. Many people have come to terms with the fact that the cycle of Kiss, a band that was once thought to be eternal, has come to an end with Ace's death.
Ace was the first person from the original lineup to die.
He was the face of improvised music for 50 years, full of personality and adventure. His death marks the end of a portion of the group's story. Paul and Gene were 2 of the first people to make official statements when Ace's death was verified. This time, they talked about him in a way that was very different from how they had in years. Paul considered Ace a key part of the first chapter of the group, irreplaceable and ever-present in Kiss history.
Paul has never used the word irreplaceable to describe Ace in an official statement before.
In several interviews before, he had stressed that Kiss is an idea that goes beyond people. The change in tone was a clear sign that Ace was done with music for good. Gene chose words that were simpler but just as clear.
No one else could have done what Ace did. We never said it wasn't true. And no one is left to say it directly.
The remark was made in a brief video following a private memorial service that the press wasn't allowed to attend. But the band's media staff put it back out there. Gene's tone was quieter, but what he said was quite clear. They didn't hold a press conference or go on TV to talk about how they felt. But what they said was enough to end the way they had stayed away from ACE since 2002. ACE was no longer talked about on tour for many years and was not asked to play with the band. And new members regularly took his place in the picture. That changed after Ace died. The opening line of the joint statement was, "We are completely devastated by Ace's passing." The second phrase says that he was an invaluable rock warrior in the band's early years. There were no conditions on this affirmation. There was no talk of the reasons for the breakup, disagreements, or explaining prior decisions. They decided to talk frankly about Ace's role, even if it meant looking at how they had worked with him again. There was no public memorial, but Paul and Gene's were all over Kiss's social media.
The group's official social media accounts altered their profile pictures to Ace in his 1977 spaceman avatar. It was the first time since 2002
that the picture had been brought back without Tommy Ace's replacement for a long time.
There were a few short memories shared underneath the statements. One of them was Paul talking about the first time he met Ace at an audition in 1973. "I noticed this man in a leather jacket and shoes that didn't match. I didn't know who he was, but I was hoping he would be the next member. And he was great."
There was no talk of old riffs. There have been no public apologies, but the way Paul and Gene chose their words, placed their images, and stayed quiet at certain times all show that they have changed how they want Ace to be seen, from a former member to an important part of the group's legacy. People consider Ace's return to the heart of Kiss media as a definite step toward healing. Before, Ace's picture has only shown up a few times in reissues or documentaries made by the group. All of the homepage graphics, digital disc covers, and ticketing systems were black with the words "Forever Spaceman" on them after October 16. Some people who worked on Kiss's technical team said that Paul and Gene asked that the whole archive be updated to include ACE's early performances as a top priority in the video collection. This wasn't made public, but it went into effect within 72 hours of ACE's death. Paul wrote in memos that were sent around to the production crew that he wanted anything having to do with ACE to be treated with the utmost respect. No cuts, no blurring, and no substitutes. Along with this, there was another request. The original live version, "Shock Me with ACE's Guitar," should be put back on digital music platforms. But the break in the relationship between ACE, Paul, and Gene didn't happen all at once or discreetly. It was plainly built up via every step, every choice, and every public remark. And unlike a lot of other bands, the people that were in Kiss always confirmed any problems that came up. The band ACE in 1973. He created the strongest impression throughout the screening process, not only because he could play the guitar well, but also because of his unique particular style. He made up Spaceman, one of the four main characters in Kiss. The band immediately became known for that picture and the unique sound of their guitars. The Ace from the first album was a big component of the band's sound as a whole. He put his own imprint on songs like Cold Gin, Shock Me, and Rocket Ride. But behind the scenes, things started to get tense between him and the other two members. Paul and Gene were always the ones who made things happen for the band. Ace has often thought that he didn't have a say in any of the big choices. He said in an interview, "I can't do anything when everything is already decided before I walk into the room." Not only did he feel this way, but it was also part of Kiss's history, where the two executives have always been important. Kiss put out 4 solo albums at the same time in 1978, one for each member. Ace's album was the only one that did really well on the market. When Paul and Gene were getting all the limelight, the hit song New York Groove put him in the spotlight. This made the relationship even more fragile. Ace started to miss a lot of group choices in the late 1970s. He became addicted to drugs and booze.
Paul wrote in the book Behind the Mask that Ace was often late and even lost his set. Gene once observed that Ace's judgment was always clouded, and that hasn't altered in years. These statements were made official and have never been changed. Ace departed Kiss in 1982 because the album Music from the Elder didn't sell well. He said leaving was for personal reasons, but others who knew him knew that Ace felt left out of the operating system. Kiss kept going with new members after that. But Ace always said that was when Kiss lost who they really were. After that, Ace proceeded on his own with Frehley's Comet. He kept making music and performing, but he constantly brought up the past fights. Ace said on social media, "They don't want me to succeed. They do everything they can to make me look like I can't be trusted." These words were not disputed by Paul or Gene. In 1996, Ace returned to Kiss for a reunion tour. It was the first time the group had performed with the original lineup in years. The tour was a record-breaking success, but behind the scenes, the old problems reappeared. Paul and Gene enforced stricter discipline, image control, revenue sharing, and health checks than ever before. This made Ace feel under surveillance. In a behind-the-scenes recording, he said, "I'm not a soldier and I didn't sign a contract to be watched every day." In 2002, after the last tour with all 4 founding members, Ace left the group. The main reason he gave was that he no longer trusted the manager. Meanwhile, Paul claimed that Ace wasn't committed enough. Gene said that Ace left the tour because he couldn't handle the pressure. From then on, the 3 of them didn't appear on stage together. In the following years, the conflict turned to another direction: ownership of the image and symbol. Paul and Gene continued to use the Spaceman character for shows, but let a new member take over. Ace didn't accept this. He once said, "I created the character. They can't put a new face on something that is associated with me." The incident turned their relationship from a personal tension to a legal and trademark conflict. In 2014, Kiss was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Ace did not perform with the group. "I don't have to stand next to someone who called me useless to get a title I deserve," he declared at a press conference. Paul did not respond to the statement. Gene said, "We respect what he has contributed, but we also have the right to move on." In the years since Ace has refused all offers to reunite, he claims the terms are unclear and coercive. When asked about the possibility of sharing the stage with the group one last time, Ace replied, "It's not because I don't want to, it's because I can't accept the way they treat me like an outsider." Paul and Gene have never directly apologized to Ace in any interviews, but in recent statements, both have mentioned missing out on moments that should have been. A podcast recording that went viral in early 2024 has Paul saying, "I don't know if it's worth holding on to something that's been unpleasant for so long." This is one of the rare times he doesn't deny the role of personal conflict within the group. For nearly 50 years, Ace has been the one who stuck together, but also the one who was left out of the center. The relationship between him and the other 2 was not hidden. It was always present in every sentence, every decision, every refusal to shake hands. And it was these things that made it clear why their separation was irreversible. Underneath it all, there was one thing that never changed. Who laid the foundation for Kiss's identity in the first place? It wasn't about contract sales or positions. It was about the roots, where it all began, and that part none other than Ace. Origins never replaced. Ace was the last person to be selected for the original Kiss lineup. His 1973 audition brought him into the band not just because of his guitar skills, but because of something no one else had. He was unlike anyone else before him. He didn't copy anyone. He didn't follow a formula. He came and plugged in the amp and played like it was his own thing. Paul once recalled that moment: "I looked down from the railing and thought, I wish that person was in the band." It was Ace. Soon after he was cast, Ace developed the character of Spaceman, the alien with the guitar. This was an integral part of the early image of Kiss. Although Paul and Gene often changed the direction of the group, Ace always kept his own style. He was quiet. He didn't participate in management. But he was the one who helped the band maintain its identity in live performances. The recordings that clearly bear Ace's fingerprints are often on the songs considered different in the Kiss discography. "Shock Me Strange Ways," Hard Times, all of which he wrote and performed himself. They were unlike the rest. They felt raw, unedited, flawed, but real. When he sang, Ace wasn't trying to prove anything, he sang as if music were the only thing in the room. Ace's influence didn't stop with his recordings. Many famous guitarists credit him with being the reason they started playing. From Mike McCready, to Tom Morello, to John Five. All of them credit Ace with their roots. Not because of his technique, but because of his free-spirited performance. He didn't need to be in the right place on stage. Didn't need to be on beat. Didn't need to follow a set schedule. Everything happened the way he wanted it to. Paul and Gene always ran Kiss as a long-term project. They focused on management, finances, and image. Ace was the opposite. He didn't plan things, didn't keep a tight schedule, wasn't always on time. This earned him complaints, even being called troublemaker. But while the band became more and more of a commercial machine, Ace remained the last link between music and artistic freedom. When Ace left the band, he didn't take his contract with him. He brought the style. And for more than 20 years, it has been the same. On stage, or in the studio. His solo records from Frehley's Comet to 10,000 Volts were unfashionable. They retained the spirit of a man who had nothing to prove to anyone. Paul and Gene could recreate the spaceman image by hiring someone else to dress like Ace. But they couldn't recreate the sound. They couldn't recreate the spontaneous, unplanned, unscripted feel. That's the difference. For years, the group continued without Ace. They performed released material, expanded the brand into all sorts of areas. But the early Kiss live recordings, the ones with Ace, are still the most watched. Fans old and new go back to those days. Not for the sound, but for the energy that was unmatched. Ace's legacy is not just in the records. It's in the image that has been associated with the youth of many generations. Anyone who picked up a guitar for the first time because they saw a man in a silver suit standing under purple and blue lights all have a part of their memory named Ace. Not everyone keeps it, but almost everyone has it. With what has just been mentioned, the story of Ace is not just the journey of an artist leaving the stage, but also the end of an unrepeatable part of Kiss's history. If you've ever heard an Ace riff and found yourself wanting to pick up a guitar for the first time, or if you've ever watched them reunite and then fall apart, leave a comment below to share your feelings about this special character. Don't forget to like if you found this video valuable, share it with your former Kiss fans, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the most honest and complete musical stories. Thank you for watching until the end.